Well, hello, welcome folks. Thank you to tonight's Real Estate Mastermind number 2. This is where we each and every week we go over some of the different educational offerings that are found in the Renatus Essentials Education. This is a mastermind designed to come alongside the education and assist people as they go through it. I want to put a disclosure out there to you that I and Ray Fleming are independent marketing affiliates with a contract with Renatus, the college that provides this education, and we help provide marketing services for their educational offerings. We do our best to represent their offerings truthfully and accurately, and we also do our best to give you all the information that you need to make informed decisions prior to purchase. And since we are independent contractors, we cannot act or bind with any authority for Renatus LLC.
Perfect.
Sound good? Okay. Oh, and I get the pleasure of reading another disclosure. Renatus LLC requires me to tell you that if you choose to purchase educational services, then 1, you are contracting with Renatus LLC, so you should read and then purchase the agreement terms, and then ask me questions if you need more information. Renatus LLC will provide access and customer service assistance for the educational services you purchase. And number 3, Renatus LLC will pay me and or other independent marketing affiliates based upon what you choose to purchase.
And we got one more for you. This is what makes the lawyers happy.
You went
a
too far.
little bit too much. Got to make those lawyers happy, you know.
Oh, of course. Just a disclaimer now. Just 2 disclosures and now a disclaimer. I love it. Hey, you should understand that I am not, and Ray are not, licensed attorneys, accountants, financial advisors, brokers, or other licensed individuals. Yada, 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 yada. What does this mean? It means that you need to do your own due diligence. Ray here is going to be sharing information and experience from his personal life, his business, and what he shares with you doesn't necessarily mean that that's going to work with you, because you see, real estate and all the different things we do are as unique and individual as the people who do it, and that it is incumbent upon you to do your own due diligence to make sure that the things that Ray shares with you and the strategies that we talk about that are found within the Renatus education actually work and apply in your specific situation. Got it?
That sounds good to me.
So tonight, I just really wanted to kind of give a little bit overview or preview of what we're really going over. This is one of the great classes in our education called Creative Acquisitions, and it's taught by none other than Chris Albin, an amazing instructor and you covered all of this last week. And he goes over 7 different strategies that you can use to actually purchase properties without using any of your own money or credit, or very little money or credit to do so. But what the strategy, and when you're not going to get into all 7 tonight, but you're just covering 1, right? You're covering what's called subject to, and it's not meant like subject to, right? It's subject to, T-O. And the reason why this is so special to me, and I'm glad that you're going to be sharing this tonight, Ray, is because I'm somebody who went through 2 foreclosures, and eventually that led to bankruptcy. So there's no way that I could qualify for any type of real estate financing. And because of that, there's, I have a family and we need to live in a house. And does that mean I need to rent for the rest of my life? When I learned the strategy of subject to that you're going to go over from the Renatus education, this is how I purchased my current house. And I want to tell a little bit, just a brief story, if I may, how that happened. Subject to allowed me to purchase a house while keeping the existing financing in place. So I didn't need to qualify for a loan. In the situation that this worked in, the person who had owned the home was a military veteran, and they had used their VA benefits to purchase the house. Unfortunately for this VA vet, they went through a divorce and had to split and separate from their spouse and couldn't afford the house. And so it was going into foreclosure. And well, I mean, for that vet in that situation, that means forfeiture of their VA benefits and not being able to use that for future home buying. And that also affects the spouse as well. So we were able to come in, stop the foreclosure, and do the subject to strategy they're going to talk about, and take over the payments. And of course, they moved out. We moved in. They didn't lose their VA benefits, saved them from getting the foreclosure. It's unfortunate that they went through the divorce, but now they're separate. They can rebuild their lives without going through the financial devastation that foreclosure can bring about. And because I've already gone through that financial devastation, I was able to get a wonderful house. I mean, this is a 2,600 square foot house that, I mean, it's only 7 years old, pretty much everything brand new. It was a beautiful, lovely house. It created a win-win for everybody involved. And so, because I've experienced that and it's so near and dear to my heart, I'm grateful that you're going to go over this, because I think that that's relevant to, as Monica was asking, it's relevant to what's happening or what might happen in America with everything that's been going on. So let me introduce for you today our speaker, our trainer. It's Mr. Ray Fleming. We call him the property guy, right? He's the property guy because, well, he used to be a contractor, a handyman. He's had a landscaping business. He's worked on roofs. He's really pretty much done it all. Before that, he's had a number of businesses, some successful, some not. But in all of this, he got himself educated. He turned his life around and got out from being a contractor to now being a real estate investor. And now, over the last 2 years, you've been able to get into 20 different deals, you and your business partner and all your companies, and combined, been able to make 500,000.
I'm just pointing at you like you.
Yeah. Well, you've been able to make over $500,000 in profit and equity owned in all of your properties. And so you did this because you got educated. You changed your life. Now, today, with how you constantly educate yourself on everything that's going on in the market and with real estate, out here in the Tucson area, there are so many different people, wholesalers or real estate investors, realtors, that bring to you their different real estate challenges that you're actually seen as one of the, the leading investors here in Southern Arizona. And you're called the property guy. And I think it's really great that we get an opportunity to learn from your experience as you go over the Renatus education with us. So everybody, Mr. Ray Fleming.
Thank you, good sir. All right, everybody. Now we get to talk about some really, really fun, exciting stuff. Oh, my favorite thing ever. And we will try to end this on time, because then I can just ramble on and we'll be here forever. All right, so what we are talking about tonight is subject to. This is a fantastic strategy. And what Joseph was saying is it's true, it's powerful. Actually, the property that my company owns that I live in right now is a subject to. And there's a right way to do it, there's a wrong way to do it, and there's all sorts of stuff in between. But let's talk about what it is, big picture. What is it? You have properties out there in the world. And typically, how do most people purchase their houses? Huh? All right, and so this will be, kind of interactive too. So if you're on the, if you're in the Zoom call, if you're on YouTube, then you can just go ahead and answer it. How do most people purchase their houses? Yes, that's right. People purchase their houses by usually getting a mortgage, some type of debt. So we have a loan. Let's look at the loans over here. So they have some type of loan. And typically, who qualifies for that loan? What do we got here? Internet connection is unstable. Are we unstable?
Well, I think we're doing fine for our webinar, folks, but I don't know how well we're coming across in YouTube.
All right, YouTube folks, if you are having trouble seeing this, go to wiseguysandties.com, and then under the events tab, there is the Real Estate Investing Mastermind Zoom link. If you're having trouble on YouTube seeing this, go to the Zoom link. And if somebody in the Zoom webinar, could you guys give us a little feedback? Are you having video issues or anything like that? If you're having any video issues, just let us know. But this recording, okay, perfect. And then we'll get the recording together and the recording will go out as well. All right, so we have a house. And like Mario said, people with good credit, right? That just gets you in the door. You gotta have good credit just to get into the door, and then they're gonna look at another huge factor to qualify for that loan. And what Mario's bringing up is, this is usually an individual person. So this person is happy, you know, I'm gonna go buy my house. I've gotten my credit score maybe over a 680, and my DTI, which is another thing. So we got credit score, and then we have DTI, debt to income ratio, that's what they're gonna look at. They typically wanna see that you are below 45% of your debt to income ratio as far as how many payments, fixed payments you already have in place. That's a huge factor. So you gotta have those, and then of course you gotta also have verifiable income. That's a big thing, you gotta have the money. So income, that's how you're gonna get a loan, you're gonna get a mortgage, they're gonna get actually approved with the bank. So you're excited, you got a house, and then you're going through life, and you know, does this person fully own the house yet? Do they fully own the house? There's also the thing that they are, they're getting a loan against. The loan is against the property, but there's also what we like to call the deed. There's the deed to the house, which dictates the ownership. In this case, this person, their name, let's just call this, this person Bob. So Bob, his name is currently on the deed of the house. And this deed is for that house, but then the loan is also in Bob's name. These are usually the way that everything is set up when you're purchasing a house. There's a house, it has the deed to the house. The person who bought the house is also on the loan, the same that they're on the deed. Now, sometimes this person may have had a co-signer to help them out if maybe their credit wasn't in the best situation, or maybe they had a little bit too much debt to income ratio. But either way, most houses, the person that's buying it, on the loan and the deed. Now, what we are talking about is separating these. When you create a subject to existing financing in real estate, you are actually separating the person who has the debt from the ownership of the house. And so many people don't realize that this is possible. What we typically do is find somebody that has, we call them fallen angels, good people who ran into tough times. Now, I've had folks that have maybe fallen into some type of addiction. Several times this happens where, you know, somebody gets wrapped up in the wrong situation, and then they lose a job, they lose their income, and that destroys their life. I've had good folks who maybe they just hurt their back. For example, when I got into real estate investing, I was in a really bad place. I was losing my business. I had two businesses at the time that required me to be completely able-bodied to do all the physical labor. But after Christmas 2015, I had this horrible bicycle accident. My leg was destroyed. My meniscus was shattered. My ACL was torn. And I had to have full knee reconstructive surgery. And when you use your body to basically make money, you can no longer make money. And that's where I was when I first came into Renatus and when I came into real estate investing. But I was about to lose my house. I couldn't pay my bills. I couldn't pay the mortgage. And thankfully, I was able to find a way out. But a lot of folks, they don't find the way out. And all of a sudden, these missed payments start to rack up. They got injured. And by 6 months later, they're maybe back on their feet. They may have gotten a job. And all of a sudden, the bank, hey, we want all of this due right now, all the back pay. We've already filed for the auction. This has to be caught up, or we're sending your property to auction. Really, the only way to stop it at that point is some people file bankruptcy, and then depending on what happens in their bankruptcy. But also, a lot of folks, they don't believe that the county, that the lenders will actually sell off their property. But it's true. I see it happen all the time. Right now, because of what's happening in the economic status, or the state of the economy, they have postponed foreclosures. I believe until the end of July now, or was it the end of June?
It was June.
It was June. It was the end of June. They're looking at possibly extending that again. So nobody's being foreclosed on right now. Nobody's really being evicted right now, as long as that eviction can prove that they've been impacted by what's currently taking place. Now, with that being said, there's always folks that are running into hard situations. Before all of this happened, there were still auctions taking place. I know in Pima County, which is down in Tucson, southern Arizona, there's auctions taking place every single day where somebody is losing their house. If you live in some city somewhere, I guarantee you there was somebody, even in good times, losing their house, because it doesn't necessarily matter on the big picture. It matters what's happening for those each individual people. Now, what we do is we help people. If you want to be a real estate investor, you have to learn to help folks in trouble. Solving their problem will get you to where you need to go. So Bob, let's just say Bob is going through maybe a divorce. He's had a layoff. His company has moved to another city. He may be transferred. There's a million different things that could have happened. Or Bob, you know, the breadwinner left the house. Maybe they passed away. So many different situations where Bob can no longer afford his loan payments. And then he goes into default, or he's on his way into default. Usually the lender will issue a notice of default if you are 3 months late. Now, you know, it just depends on who the lender is, but any major institutional, they typically try to work with you for about 3 months, seeing if you can start making payments before they actually officially announce that you're in default. When they officially announce, they've put it into a publication in your area that is letting everybody know you're in default, and they are going to move forward with the foreclosure process. This person is in the pre-foreclosure until they've officially foreclosed. You can help them, because I tell you what, we've purchased houses at the auction, and you know, there's only been one time where the person was still there. We still worked with them, and we ended up giving them, it was about, what was it, $2,700 is what we ended up helping them to move on their way. So that way they could get a truck. They could put a rent deposit down and then move on their way gracefully. Mm-hmm. That's us. We like to help folks. You know, but there's a lot of big institutional real estate investment conglomerates, groups, whatever you want to call it, who have lost the personal touch. And what they will do is, as soon as everything's recorded, as soon as everything's been transferred and paid for, they will start the eviction process and process the eviction. The constable, the sheriff will show up to the house, kick you literally to the curb, make sure you put everything out on the street, and if you refuse, you're going to jail. And so when we come to help these folks, hey, this is the situation. You're either going to go to auction and they're going to sell your house and they're literally going to come and kick you to the curb, or we can try to help you out. And then I will lay out all of their options. We'll say, hey, look at these. This is an option. This is an option. There's 8 different options. One of them will be working with me. But I'm also going to be there to help folks. The key to success in real estate is if you help enough folks solve their problem, you won't have any more problems. That is the true thing of creating wealth. So back to where we're at. This is the situation. Bob is one, you know, he got hurt, and let's say that he's in construction and now can no longer work. He was in short-term disability, able to keep everything afloat, but now he's in long-term disability and only receiving 40% of what he was making. Currently today, this is going to impact our situation because there's well over 30 million people collecting unemployment. Of course, that was last week. There's more this week. And that is what they're currently collecting as far as unemployment. And as soon as all of this basically runs out, there will be no more federal support for the unemployment, because if you're on unemployment, you're getting an extra $600 a week, and that's going to cut off at some point, and the bank's going to want their money. So what is going to happen at that point? Well, there's going to be people that need to sell. There's going to be people that are going into pre-foreclosure, and we're going to have to figure out a way to help those folks. And since the economy has been raging before that, everybody's been refinancing like there's no tomorrow. And of course, you should catch us on a Tuesday night when we talk about how there's only about 7% of all the refinances that actually should be taking place. Most refinances should not be taking place. We'll show you a better way to help solve your situation. So now that we've sat down and we've negotiated with Bob, and in a little bit, I'm going to show you how I actually find them. And live tonight, I will go find a property within a few minutes of somebody I could go help. This is where we come into play. We have some type of company. So an LLC, typically our fix and flip company, or this could be a rental company, depending on what our strategy is. Usually all the properties that we get under contract are the fix and flip company, and then later on we may wholesale it to our buy and hold company. It just depends. But our company is gonna be making an offer to Bob. And then our offer is exactly what we talked about. Bob, we're gonna first buy your house. That way you are out of the situation that you're in. But because maybe there's not enough equity in that property, or just because Bob's in a situation where he needs to sell, we're gonna take over the existing payments that are in place. So what's gonna happen is our LLC is going to make an offer to Bob to purchase the house. Once Bob accepts the offer, then we're going to go actually through a closing with the title company. Now the title company, that's why it's important to have a relationship built with the title company that understands what you're trying to do. Not all title companies are, even willing to do subject tos. You have to find the right ones that are investor friendly. Now, so as Bob decides to sell the property to our company, what ends up happening in closing is Bob's name is removed from the deed of the house, and our LLC is now the deed holder. So our LLC is on the deed. Let's find the little eraser here. And this relationship of Bob being attached to the deed is no longer there. Now, what did not stop is the relationship between the bank and the house. So the bank has a lien against this house. That did not change. That's their security. But who used their social security number to guarantee the debt was Bob. That has not changed. That has stayed the same. But in order for us to maintain the ownership of this house, the LLC needs to make sure that they are now paying that loan. So our responsibility is to make sure that the money gets all the way to the loan. Now, I'm not sending the money to Bob because there's no guarantee that the money will actually make it there. What I'm doing is I'm sending it to the bank. Okay, now there's a lot of things that need to take place. There's a lot of documentation that needs to be put in place to make sure that you're doing this right. Now, why is Bob happy about this? Well, Bob basically is able to move on. Let's talk about how we help Bob move on. Let's talk about a little bit of numbers, shall we? ARV. What does ARV mean?
I know.
All right, let's see if anybody can get out there.
Oh,
what is
okay.
ARV? ARV. We're going to say that ARV is $200,000 on this house.
What's ARV stand for? Mario Medina says after repair value.
After repair value. Perfect. So every house always, especially in this situation, there's very few that are ever perfect. They always need some type of work. The best one that we've seen needed floor and some paint, but everything else was really well. And so the loan, typically, a lot of times somebody's refinanced. Most foreclosures I've seen, they've refinanced at least one time. But not, I would say that 70% of the foreclosures and the pre-foreclosures that we look at, they've refinanced at least one time. So let's say that they recently refinanced and the loan is for, let's say it's $170,000. And you might be thinking, well, they owe $170,000, but I mean, even after it's fixed up, it's only worth 200. You know, many people will just pass it by and say, whoa, there's not much that we could do there. However, there is, depending on what the situation is. Now, we're going to be looking at this. We have been talking to Bob, and let's say that, you know, he's been able to maintain it pretty well. Maybe it just needs carpet and some paint. And so what we're going to need to do is factor in the fix-up. And so in this situation, let's factor in, let's say it needs $8,000 of just basic paint, carpet, get it cleaned up and ready for somebody to move in. Then what we're going to need to do is we're going to need to get Bob some money to go on his way, if there's even money left over. It depends on what Bob's situation is. If Bob's back on his feet and he's just looking for his credit not to be completely destroyed, because that's, if we start making his payments and get him caught up, Bob's back on a better place. Now let's say he's a couple months behind. So we need to do what's called the catch up. We got to pay the back due that's to the lender. And they could be behind $8,000 to get them caught up. You know, and of course, you know, it could be a little bit less. It could be way more. I mean, there's some that we've had, they're $30,000 to get them caught up because they've been so long. So we're going to catch up the bank for $8,000.
Is that an amount negotiable?
To get the bank caught up?
Yeah.
Absolutely, it's negotiable. It is always negotiable because there's all sorts of fees and everything in there, but we're saying, hey, look, we're going to be able to stop this foreclosure process now. So, you know, you don't need those extra funds for the attorney, everything. We'll give you a lump sum payment and then get this current and move forward. Oh yeah, banks are all willing to, you know, there could be thousands of dollars of fees associated with that they are willing to wipe off. Everything is negotiable. Even if you go to the grocery store, hey, this can is dent. I mean, I get 10% by saying that. And if you're not getting 10% for that, then you got to think about stop spending too much money.
Is that the best you can do?
Is that the best you can do? Yes. Okay. So loan, fix up, the catch up, and then maybe we got a little bit of money to give Bob, you know, an incentive to move on his way. Instead of us just kicking him out, give him maybe 30 days to go. And let's say that we decide to also give Bob $2,000 in his pocket. So this is going to Bob. Now, if we, and we also need, let's say that we're also going to need about $2,000 for closing, because we're not using a realtor. Now, there's a lot of different situations, and this one that I'm diagramming, we're really pushing it where there's not a lot of equity. And also on this loan, what's about, you know, on a $1,700 house after we're looking at interest, principal, and everything like that? Let's just say that this monthly payment, so let's go over here. The monthly loan payment is, let's just say it's like $1,350. $1,350 a month. That's the monthly payment. Okay. Now, there's a lot of reasons and ways that you'd want to look at this before going in. Are you going to fix and flip it? Well, there may not be enough equity here. There may be the ability to add a bedroom, and then you can kind of force appreciation in that. If you turn into a rental, you're going to want to make sure that that area rents out for whatever the monthly payment is, plus whatever cash flow you're looking for. You know, if it's us, I'm going to want to make sure on this house, if I take this, add another $400 to it, I want to make sure I can rent it for at least that. And in this case, let's see how much this is. So we got $170,000 plus $8,000 plus another $8,000. That brings us to what, 190, that's 196.
Raul says 20,000.
All right, so we got $20,000. Yeah, 20,000 plus, so that brings us to a grand total of $190,000, right? So we're only getting $10,000 of equity, right? But I want you guys to think about what we're doing here. How much money are we going to have to bring to the table to acquire this property? How much money, if we're going to be all in for 190, how much of our own money from our company are we going to need to bring to closing to move forward with this? Exactly, Raul. $20,000. That's what we're going to need. We, as a company, need to bring to closing $20,000. That's it. Did we need to qualify with the bank? No, we didn't. Did we have to provide our social security number? No, we didn't. We had to bring $20,000 and we bought a house, but remember, there's now a total of $190,000 that was spent on this. It's worth it's worth $200,000. We have $10,000 of equity right there. So instantly, with a $20,000 investment, there's a 50%. We have 50% equity already on our cash-on-cash investment. Now, some might say, well, that's not enough. But if we're able to rent this out for $1,850 a month, so we're renting it out for $1,850 a month. We got to subtract our monthly expenses. That leaves us with, everybody do the math? Do the math? All right. $500.
I have a question on that.
Yes, sir.
In that mortgage payment, is that also including insurance and taxes in the escrow?
It is. It's including insurance and taxes in that payment. So that's $500 of cash flow. So with a $20,000 investment, you are now getting a $500 cash flow every month. And it costs you $20,000 to get into that rental property. So as long as you keep it rented, now this is where we talk a lot about business credit and how that starts to be incorporated into this. And so you can start to implement business credit to stabilize your cash flow. So if something happens in the property, you need to buy a new washer or dryer if you're going to provide that. Then you can use your business credit. And then how do you pay for your business credit?
How do I pay for my business?
Yes, let's say you buy a washer and dryer. How are you going to pay for that?
I would use business credit attached to the.
Well, how are you going to pay for that bill, though?
I would use the credit card.
Well, and then how are you going to make your payments?
Well, I would use the cash flow
Yeah.
off of the rental. Yeah.
Exactly. Use your cash flow to pay for that. It helps stabilize the cash flow. You were going to ask a question.
Yes, this is a really great strategy. Obviously, you've done it. I've done it. But there is a big risk that we always get asked. I haven't seen the question come up yet, but I'm sure there's somebody thinking about it. What about the due on sale clause?
Dun, dun, dun. Yes, the due on sale clause, which is in every single loan agreement. There is what is called the due on sale. This is something you need to understand. And this kind of goes into, there's a lot of things you got to start to think about and know about before you move into this. I'm just giving you the overview. But this to know how to do this and all the little ins and outs and how to protect yourself, there's so much and it'll take hours to explain all that. But as soon as there's an ownership that has been transferred or changed over, typically it's about 20%. Over 20% of ownership change, that is when the due on sale clause is triggered.
Or could be triggered.
Well, you're right. It is, let's see, I guess what is the word? It is triggered, but they haven't actually acted on it.
So if the sale part of that means if ownership changes hands, that's
Yes.
the sale.
Yes.
Then the amount or the balance due on the loan, the balance left on the loan is due.
Right. So when the sale from Bob, because he's on the loan, when the property sold to another person, that created the due on sale clause.
So they want us to repeat what was meant by due on sale.
Okay, so there's the due on sale clause in the mortgage. Bob is on the loan. In the loan agreement with the house and Bob, if Bob ever sells the house, the loan needs to be paid off. This is just one of those agreements that is standard in any purchase of a property, because if Bob sells the house, the bank wants to make sure that, hey, that money goes to them to pay off that loan. Now, what's happening is the loan is staying in place, but the sale has still gone through. This $190,000, the only reason we're bringing $20,000 is because all we're doing is we're taking over the $170,000 that was already in place to give us the total purchase of $190,000. Now, the bank wants to make sure whenever the house is sold that they get paid. But in this unique situation, the bank is not being paid off. But that's why communication with the bank is so important. And what the bank wants, what does the bank actually want? What do lenders actually want?
Interest.
They want to get paid. They do not want real estate on their books, and then they have to deal with that and worry about getting it sold off, foreclosed on. They don't want to do that. They want to get paid. And so the incentive to the bank is they're getting paid. And as long as the bank is getting paid, as you know, is it possible that something could happen in the economy where they want to call those loans due? Absolutely. After 2008, they put some regulations in place where the banks just couldn't take the property. They have to go through the foreclosure process. There were some lenders that were able to see that there was a lot of value, then if they had already been transferred into a subject to, they were able to just take those and sell it and make a profit. Can't do that anymore. They actually have to go through a different type of process.
Since I'm the money guy, I have to look at this from the bank's perspective. I've got a non-performing note.
Right.
That it's going to cost me a lot of money to foreclose, get the property back, sell it, possibly at a loss, and even more of a loss because of the attorneys and the paperwork and the time to do that.
Absolutely.
So I could go through that process. I could, and then let's say somebody does the subject to, and now my non-performing note, which is a toxic asset, which I've got to get off my books. All of a sudden now my non-performing note is not performing.
Right.
Why would I want to go through all
Start
that?
the whole foreclosure process again.
Right. If it's performing, then it's a good note for me. Then it's good. Then I put that on the other side of my ledger.
Right.
And so
that's good. That's a good thing on your balance sheet.
And again, we got to also realize that there's the front end and the back end of banking, like the underwriters and the bankers, and they're not always communicating. But if something is performing, then the bankers over here on this end aren't probably going to be looking for. I want to look through all my performing notes and find out if any of them have changed hands. Right? They're not. I mean, that's not a typical practice. Right. But in the event, I'm also thinking like a lender here. If I wanted to foreclose on this and I start the process, depending on which state or jurisdiction I'm in, that could be 3 or 6 months down the road before that all goes through. So given that if you're notified, let's say you're the person who purchased this and you're notified that the bank is going to activate the due on sale clause, which hasn't, I guess, really happened for very many of your business partners or investors. But if they do that, you really have about 3 to 6 months to turn around and just sell the house, right?
Right.
Okay.
Or refinance it out.
Right.
It's a lot easier to get capital when a property is owned in an LLC and you've already have a business credit established. It's a lot easier to get partners on board, investors on board, especially if you can show, hey, this thing is making $500 a month. There is a lot of different options for that. But that kind of goes into the whole thing of realizing that there's no shortage of money. If the deal is good and if it's structured properly, somebody will buy this. I mean, yeah, if it's being rented out or whatever, there's a lot of benefits that go into that. Now, that's kind of, you always need to be aware of what can happen and make sure that you have an exit strategy for if that does happen. But very good thing. Because I do know some lenders that once you have 3 months of payments from your rental, it may be a higher interest rate, but there's the money available for that. Okay, so with that being said, let's see, where are we at? The due on sale clause, right? Bob is no longer really in this picture of the house. So Bob is just out doing his life, and he is now separate from the property. Bob's not even really worrying about those statements anymore. That's kind of where all the nitty gritty on how to make sure that this goes through perfectly, which we don't really have time for how to do all that, but the basics of what it really is taking over somebody's situation when they're in a bad situation. Now, there's a lot of houses out there. We're talking about really getting into a position where there's not a lot of equity. I know folks that will take these over in negative equity situations. I have even heard about different people taking this over. Let's say that they had just refinanced and it's worth $200,000, and that's pretty much the max of what it is actually worth. You know, I'm not going to be able to let Bob walk away with anything, and I'm going to have to put money into that.
You got a question right here from Mario.
All right. So if the loan is on Bob's name, if you refinance, do you need Bob? So that is a great question. And typically, no. But the other thing is too, the only reason I would be looking to refinance, well, I guess, let me clarify it this way. I can't refinance it. Bob can't refinance it in a sense of restructuring it with that lender. If I were to refinance it, I would have to either start something entirely new with that lender or go to a different lender. Bob, he has no more control over the property itself, so he can't refinance that loan unless I, you know, for some reason wanted to refinance it with Bob. You know, I could go down that route, but the big thing is, unless I absolutely have to refinance, I'm not going to. Because let's think about this. He may have just refinanced it, and, you know, I'm a big believer in not refinancing. There are a few situations where it works, but I would refinance it to maybe a private lender of some sort, if I had to. I don't know if that really answers your question, though.
Well, I think what you did is if you're looking at refinancing, you would refinance using your business credit or
Personal.
or an investor's personal or yours or something, because in this scenario, Bob's credit is in the tank.
Yeah, Bob's is destroyed. You know, he's been missing payments. He's not even going to be able to qualify.
And nobody's going to, no one's going to refinance him because of all of his missed payments and his track record.
Right.
So that's not even a possibility. So refinancing that existing mortgage, in this case, the only thing that they'll accept, because they went through the foreclosure process, is payment in full.
Right.
So.
Good point, though. Good question.
Now, hey, Daryl's got a question here.
All right, Daryl.
This home that you have,
yes,
is still on Bob's credit, which with the, I guess what he's trying to say, you're making the payments, which is making things better for him. But from a debt to income standpoint, he's locked up until that debt's paid off. Is that correct?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. Yes. This is going to show up on his credit report. But you have to think about, what was the other option? The other option was foreclosure, and he was going to have a foreclosure on his record. The benefit to Bob is I gave him some money to move on. I pulled him out of foreclosure, which his credit is going to start repairing itself as we make these loan payments.
Positive payment history.
If he's in a situation where in the future he wants to say, let's say 10 years down the road, if we're holding it that long, now it depends on the strategy. You know, the longer you hold it, the more risky it gets. But let's say in 10 years, I want to, let's say Bob wants to buy another house in 10 years. Well, the great thing is I can work with Bob and the lender to show that this revenue from the rental or whatever is supporting that payment, and they can offset that in their debt to income calculations and not factor in that loan payment into his qualification. Now, that's just something else. Because, you know, I obviously have met Bob, I've talked to Bob, and we've had some communication. The key is having communication.
Now, I mean, you said 10 years, but realistically, you don't stay in that for 10 years, right?
No.
You're using some kind of credit banking strategy,
right?
Or you're bringing in a new investor, or you're refinancing, or a combination thereof. So within 5 years, maybe or less, you're already moved on.
Right. We're implementing, you know, debt reduction strategies on this, and then, you know, once we have 5 of these, we're putting them in a package for a commercial usually like a non-recourse commercial loan, something like that. So there's definitely a bigger picture if you're going to build a rental empire out of this. So a long-term strategy with that. If you're using it as a short-term fix and flip, that's just quite simple and easy. You know, you're going to be exiting this property in 6 months to a year. So there's not going to be any worries to Bob or to the lender for that.
I think we got all the questions.
Okay, cool. That sounds really good. Now, you guys want to see how to actually go find one of these? Yeah, let's talk about that. All right. So this is the basics of the subject to it. Did I cover everything? Yeah, I think I covered the basic, of how that strategy works. All right, let's talk about finding some of these properties. I'm going to switch my screen over here to, we can watch ourselves on YouTube. Hey, there we go. We're watching ourselves. Hi self, as I paused it. Okay, let's look on here. Now, all right, can you see my screen? Hey, there we go. All right, so I'm going to log into a software that I use from, if I can spell it correctly. There we go. Okay, so I'm gonna, and I keep putting an extra R in there. There we go. All right, so this is a software that I use. It's called Renatus iOS. It is the Renatus investor operating software. This is a serious, powerful tool. Now, what we were talking about is an easy way to find these properties, because there's some right now. There's a lot in pre-foreclosure that need help right now. And so what do you do if you want to go find these properties? Well, we can go in here and look in our lead pipes, and this helps you find people, properties, and money. Now, we're not going to go into all the bells and whistles that this system has, but I'm going to talk about how to generate some property leads. So I'm going to go in here and let's see. Anybody want to give me a area code? Well, here, I'm going to start,
Zip code.
A zip code. Area code and a zip code. Yeah. You could do an address, anything like that.
I'll just give you 3 numbers here. 703. There's your area.
I'm going to do my area because as we move forward in future masterminds, I'm going to want to see if anybody has a particular property that they're looking at, or maybe a local zip code to them, because I kind of talked a lot in time. I'm looking at the timer here, and I think for time's sake, we'll go into
Can I put a little disclaimer with properties? Because we got a lot of people here, and I think a lot of people here are ethical, but you never know if a bad apple comes in. If you're looking at maybe doing a property, but you're not in contact with the seller, you don't have anything on the contract, and you start putting it out there, somebody could see that property and then go make an offer before. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, if you take caution with the properties that you share. That, I mean, if this is a property that you're going for, have it under contract or have some kind of intent, an intent to sell, intent to buy, something like that in place.
Sounds good. That's why I bring my lawyer with me everywhere. Just kidding. We're not lawyers.
Daryl wants you to check out 76002.
All right, let's do that. This is going to be fun. 76002. Is that right? Is that what I'm looking at?
Yeah.
All right, Daryl. Let's look and see what we got going on here. Now, we're going to look at is there's all sorts of things we can search for. We can search for absentee owners, cash buyers, free and clear properties. We got high equity, low equity, upside down, active listings, board investors, foreclosures, long-term owners, potentially inherited, pre-foreclosures, vacant, or what some of my favorite are the zombie properties. Can you see that on your screen?
I can see it on your screen.
There we go, zombie properties. If you want to know what zombies are, these are properties that are in pre-foreclosure and also vacant. So you don't have to worry about anybody actually being there unless they're a squatter. So let's just take a look at pre-foreclosures in the 76002 area code. And, nothing, you can search for individual ownership if you wanted to say, oh, I don't want anything from a business. I don't want anything that's government owned. I'm just going to look at all properties and all property types except for land. And let's just run a little search here and see what we can come up with. Okay, so we're kind of,
We're in Texas.
are we in Fort Worth area? Where are we at?
No. We're south of
We're
Texas.
south of Dallas. Looks
Yeah.
like we're south. Okay. All right. So then what I'm going to go over here and do is I'm going to sort by.
So there's 345 properties in that area, 24 in that other area, and 45 properties down in
Yeah. So if you see here, right here, 414 have came back on the search. And then what I'm going to do is I'm doing the last notice in descending order. So let's see here. We got 419. But as we know, things have not been, let's look at that. Okay, so that's pretty recent here. Let's see here. What do we got in it right here? Loan to value, 57% loan to value, approximately 250,000 is the value. Let's take a look at this. Okay. All right, so we open it up a little bit, and as you can see, it gives us a breakdown of the property. We got the address. First thing I look at is this address the actual address for the mailing and the tax information? That usually is an indicator if it is potentially a rental. We're doing this live, folks. So there's 2 loans. Okay. So obviously it looks like there's a couple different things that could have taken place here in 2006. They may have gotten a second that is a loan, or it could have been an equity line of credit. The easy thing is they are at the same property. Now, for time's sakes, I'm not going to dive into 2 loans, how to deal with that today. So I'm going to go back and look at another one. And let's go to the second down the list and see.
But you would wrap that.
Yeah, we can cover that in future. There's only so much time.
I know. I'm saying you're not skipping it because you don't know what to do.
No. Yeah.
You just don't have time to cover.
It's going to open up a whole can of questions. That's what it's going to do.
Can we go over all-inclusive trust deeds today?
I know, right? Here, let's look at this one. This one, it looks basic and simple. Okay, so address. These folks are in pre-foreclosure. This is a 4-bedroom, 2-bathroom house. There's 1 loan. Let's take a look at this. And pretty darn recent. Look at that. Right there. And you may be looking at that. Well, what happened right there? That's January 31st. Well, let's dive down and look at the history of who this actually is.
But look at that. Who holds the loan? It's WAMU. They're not even a bank anymore. So somebody's bought that paper.
Ooh, yeah, that's the hard part. So it looks like, ooh, yeah, this looks like there's something funny going on here. Gail Cody.
So with foreclosures, can somebody go into foreclosure and then they do, and they quickly like say, hey, you're my brother, so hey, now I'm moving it over to your name, and we do a warranty deed.
Right.
And now I extend it another time, right?
So yeah, it looks like, so vendors lien, it looks like that they've been kind of transferring things around, and now it's getting caught up to them and they can't make the payments anymore. So what I'm gonna do is take a look here and the notice of foreclosure. So this is not uncommon. So it looks like they transferred ownership. A lot of times what I've seen folks do to try to prevent foreclosure is they will transfer it to, like Joseph was saying, a family member, and then they will file for bankruptcy, and then, oh, they'll transfer it to somebody else, and then file for There's all sorts of different ways of trying to get around the foreclosure process. So if you can see here, they started this foreclosure process, and now we have somebody else who came into the picture in the end of January to try to throw off that foreclosure. That could be a little bit of a tricky situation, but we're going to look at this just, as we move forward. We're going to have to obviously track these people down, go to the,
so how often,
yeah, we won't go into how you actually contact them.
But when you see a notice of foreclosure, if people have been listening to you and they go and they see the notice of foreclosure, what would you say is the percentage rate that house will actually sell at auction that day, or be cleared to sell?
I would say 40%, 30.
Yeah, so here it gets, there's all kinds of things that can.
Because of what's happening, this is going to trip them up a little bit for at least a month or two. And that, when it comes time to getting it clear for the auction,
somebody's going to do something and it may move forward. Now, they may be just buying themselves time, but there's, you know, let's just say that this person is willing to negotiate with you. You're going to make an offer. You're going to make a contact with these individuals. Now, what do? I add this to my leads. Now I have the choice right here. Let me add it. I'm going to add this to my leads. Now I have a choice here. If I'm doing a whole lot of properties in one area, I have the choice to do a direct mail campaign. And so I could have it personally penned, or I could send them direct mail. So let's just say that I want to create a direct mail campaign for this group of houses. You know, I could put a whole bunch of houses in here. And then I want to say, okay, this is a test campaign. How many pieces of direct mail would you like the homeowner to receive? Well, let's hit them with 5. And I want to hit them every single week with a piece of letter from me. That way I can, you know, try to get their attention. And then I put in the information. Who do I want it to be from? And then the contact information. And then, let's see, mail a copy of each mailer to myself. You know, you don't necessarily do that. There's an extra cost to that. You can use your own phone number. If you need a new tracking number, you could get that for $19.99 a year. But let's just move forward. Let me see. I'm just going to throw in some things here real quick because I want to move on to the next screen. Let's just throw this in there. Oops, there's my cell phone number if you guys ever want to call me. Most of you are probably going to end up with my cell phone number anyway, but just text before you call. And then we'll set up a time. So let's see here. I'm going to use my own number, and we're going to move forward. Oh, there's a phone number there. Oh, and as I share all my information with the world, you guys know me. All right. So who's our target audience? Well, we're looking at sellers in this case. Now, what's really cool is we're looking at this person selling their house. And what's really amazing is I'm not in Dallas. You know, I'm not even in this area. So me being in Tucson, Arizona, I can be looking at properties in every major city and blasting out mailers to anybody I want. Let's do, let's just send them a postcard. That's cost effective. Now let's find a, let's see, tired of riding that mortgage rate roller coaster. No equity upside down, sell a house. So there's all sorts of different ones here. Let's see here. Avoid foreclosure. Here we go. Pre-foreclosure notice. Let's send that one out. And I can do maybe the next one. I did a postcard for that. Let's send them a letter the next time. And they actually have machines that will hand write these for you. And I want to do this letter here, and then you can of course go in there and edit it yourself. Probably should have just done one mailer, but let's do this one for the next week, and then the next week after that. Obviously, I'm just clicking through this pretty quick so I can save time and show you what this would end up costing. Move through here, send them that pre-foreclosure notice, and move forward. Okay, final review. Everything looks good. Finish and preview order. So for me to send this person 5 pieces of mail from a click of a button that I don't even have to address, I don't have to worry about postage, I don't have to do any of that, and I can just have it all sent out for me, it's going to cost me $2.19 to hit this person 5 times, you know, in a 5-week period with a mailer. $200 or $2 there. If I wanted to do 100 different properties in an area, that's only $219 to have 100 houses getting hit every single week. Think about that. It's all right here. All you have to do is run the list and everything. This system's insanely amazing.
You know, you were before you showed us this system, Nasty Fran had said with looking for these pre-foreclosures that those are hard to get in New York because there's too many investors. But this starts putting you on par with what they're just doing the exact same thing, right?
Now, Nasty, when you say it's one of those things that how are you going to separate yourself from the rest? One thing is to be there first. Now I'm going to share a little tip of the trade with Nasty, because I know Nasty's been really engaged lately. And I know in New York, one thing I have done is, you know, went and actually talk to folks. I also will bring somebody with me, sometimes a female, because a female tends to get in the door a lot more than males. And I'm just gonna tell you straight up, there's a whole lot more males out there knocking doors than females. And females have a way higher rate of getting that door answered.
They're perceived as a lot less threatening.
Yes. So you have, you know, if you're a female, you already have one up on your competition. Second is I will mail, I've done this to people that I've tried to get to them, and this house was right down the street from me. I was like, I need this house. So guess what I did? I sent them holiday cards. I'm like, what holiday's coming up? All right, I'm gonna send them an Easter card with a picture of my family and say, hey, look, I am a local person here. I help people in trouble. And, you know, now I just gave one of my biggest secrets, but there's no shortage of properties out there.
But every time we get your Christmas card, I always flip it over and see an offer to buy my house.
Hey, you never know. Friends and family, if they don't know what you do, then how are you supposed to help them? But seriously though, it's some powerful stuff you got to think about. I will send it to somebody, and then I will go hit their door, and they're like, hey, you're that person that sent me that card with you and your cute little kid. Why are you sending me your picture of your family? Well,
if somebody
let's sit down and talk about that.
if somebody wants to, though, I mean, while you've showed a way to free up their time with the direct mailing campaign, you can also put together and look at where these houses are and create a little door knocking campaign, like you were talking about.
Oh yeah.
And look
as I share all of our properties there, let's go back here. How do I go back? All right, let's run back a little bit here. Boom, boom, boom. I'm gonna go back because I didn't add this property into I started a campaign. Okay, so here's my leads. And what I want to do here is, okay, let's add this to my leads. Now, save this property. If I can find it. Okay, so Fossil Hill Drive. Whoop. All right, so Fossil Hill Drive. Let's pull this open and let's find out some more information. So here's the owner. I am not telling you to contact this person, just so you know. If you happen to do something without me knowing, that is totally on you, not me. All right, so let's take a look here. We got a somebody at the door, but we got the mortgage information. Of course, we had already seen that information. What's really nice about this is you can keep updating the information as you go through it. And so as you get more information on maybe the person, you can keep notes on any type of debt. There's the public information that's in here. So what is available through public record, the refinancing information, the notice of foreclosure. So, I mean, look at this. This owner first went into default back in 2015. So we got 2015, and then it looks like we're back at the same situation again. Track record of having some issues. But they could be tired of it and want to move forward. Let's say that they're wanting to work with us. Let's run the comps on this property. What's it actually worth? Well, this plugs into the MLS. And what we're going to do is this is a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom house. It's 1,900 square feet. So we're going to look at things that have sold. 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom max, or no. We want 3 bedrooms, 3-bedroom, 3, there, oh, this looks weird. Is my screen too large or something? Okay. Bathrooms, we want 2 bathrooms. There we go, max of 2 bathrooms. Everything else is gonna kind of line up. We're looking at 1,600 to 2,400, and let's see, we're at 19. I might shrink this down a little bit. I might go to 22 and 1,700 square feet. So I'm trying to find very similar apples to apples. then let's search. Let's see what comes up. After I hit the search button, I go up here and let's make sure that that came up. Okay, search. Are we thinking? Did it go?
Usually there's a comment in the bottom of the screen after you push.
All right, here, yeah, there we go. Yeah, these are all falling in. So here it's a list of all the comparables. If I want to use the map, I can go to the map. And then this is a way for me, if I'm not living there locally, you know, I may not use this property versus this property. I don't necessarily know if those are going to be in the same neighborhood, but I know this one is. So I'm going to select that one. We got, let's take a look at that one. That one might be on the lake. I might not use that one. We got this one that's right down the street. Let's take a look at this one here. Well, actually, we could use that one. No, lakefront trail. I'm not going to compare it to probably a lakefront property. Let's take a look at this one. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to build a report for this. Let's see what we come up with. I'm going to build a report, take a look at this, and it looks like the comparables I chose about 212. Now, I do actually do a little bit more research before I just throw them up there because I'm looking at this. All right, this one sold for 211. This one sold for 270. And this last one for 156. Those are big differences. So,
But what were the dates too?
well, I'm going to go back and estimated time on market. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back here and now let's take a look at these. I'm going to go down here and see which ones I actually picked. So I picked this one. And then if I want to actually look at this, was sold on January 21st. Now I'm looking at here, I'm like, okay, these ones, they look about the same area, but why did one go for almost $60,000 more? Well, this is when the great thing about the internet and being able to do this, let's look at each one. Search for this property. Oh, what does this house look like? And I could just pull it up on Zillow. Let's see what it looks like. Hey, this is not a bad looking house. And then we got all sorts of property pictures of it. And I can just, I can just pull that up on Zillow right then and there and see the property, what it looks like. Let's take a look at some of these pictures. All right, so this thing looks like it's in good shape. Not bad at all. So,
Or it was when those pictures were taken.
yeah, you bring up a very good point. It was when these pictures were taken. All right, so that one doesn't look that bad. Then let's take a look at this one. What's the difference between these two properties? Oops. Pull up the Google map there. If I want to pull up the map, I can see where it's located. Okay, kind of at the end of a cul-de-sac there.
And cul-de-sacs, depending on where you're at, can be more desirable.
Yeah, that's what's cool is about Google is I can invest from anywhere because if I wanted to take a little tour around the neighborhood, I could look around the neighborhood. I could see if there's, you know, and these aren't always the newest updated photos, but it gives you a good sense if you're not familiar with the area. I always recommend if you're getting into real estate investing, you work in your local area first to start with. The neighborhood you're actually in. The worst thing that could ever happen is if you start your real estate investing career and the house right down the street sells to somebody else because you just didn't notice it. That's the worst thing that can happen. That's why if there's something that pops up in my, I've literally bought 3 houses on my street. Nobody else is going to buy something at a bigger discount on my street because that would be, what would happen? I would have to go cry if that happened. So let's take a look at this one here. All right, this property looks really good too. And I'm sure we'd have to see some more photos. It looks a bit nicer, a little bit more open floor plan. And I would dig in a little bit deeper. I'd dig into who, if I wanted to actually pursue this to come up with a good ARV, it looks like just from the roughly looking at it, there's a good chance that it might be worth $240,000, $250,000. What I do know is it looked like the loans that were foreclosing were what? How much was that? 160,000 thousand. Let's go back to that.
Well, the 211 could have been, I mean, you can't see what the documents are for, but it could have been in an as-is situation.
Mm-hmm.
Because those pictures you're looking at were back before it sold, which could have been years ago.
Absolutely. Could have sold it at auction too.
Right. Well, I mean, let's say somebody backed the truck into the garage, and so now they're moving out, and we don't have any money to fix that, or there's other things that are wrong with it. So we'll just drop the price, and that discount in the price is what you can use to fix the house.
People all day, every day will sell at a discount too. So once we find out what our good value is, now let's actually look in the house, and we can create a repair estimate. So this will just be a test estimate, and it was like, I put the actual number in there, it's like 1,900 square feet. Now this is powerful to use when you're evaluating your properties, because what I can do is I can go into a house and I can start looking around. Now there's a lot of ways on a later day we'll talk about how to evaluate a property and everything like that, but I can just start going through. Let's see, well, looks like it's going to need a new roof, and this is shingle roof, so we're going to need one of those.
Not that you need it, but on each of those line items you can go in there and watch a video, right? A little like 10-minute video, so that
yeah.
you know how
let's
to
click it. Let's see, you know what, you're right. Let's go down to, like, if we want to do painting, we could do the painting, interior painting. And as you become more used to evaluating properties and having contractors give you bids and things like that, you're going to get more in tune with what the cost will be. But this does generalized for that area pricing. And so to paint the interior, it's going to be around $3,800. I always, I'm going to be doing some future trainings on how to get discounts, things like that. I'm not going to dive too deep into that today, but let's just say all you needed was a roof and some paint. Well, there you go, $4,000 of rehab right there. We can save that. And of course, there's always going to be more things than just that.
4,000, 11,400.
Oh, is that what I said? 11,400. That's what I meant.
Excuse me.
Don't listen to what I say, just look at the screen. And then we can go into the Rehab Planner, and let's pull up, let's create a new plan. And let's see, what plan budget. So this you can go through and you can build out the have for your contractors. On later days, we can go through on how to actually build out a full plan and everything like that. But you can build it out, you can hand it to your contractors, and make sure that they stay on track. And then after you evaluate it, you come with a plan, then you go to the deal analyzer. So let's say that you have your rehab estimate, it's going to be 11,400. So we'll create an analysis. Let's do another test here. And let's create. So we got our analysis that we're creating, and then we can start to go through everything, what our projected holding costs are, the HOA, it's already pre-building all these in there. Insurance costs, the gas, electric, you can adjust these to, how much that's actually going to be for that area, the square footage, it was like 1,900. After repair value,
240.
Yeah, let's just say it's 240.
Oh, you put.
Let's just say it's 240. Current as-is value, let's say that maybe we only feel that it's worth $170,000 because it needs some work. So 70,000, estimated repair costs. And of course, these numbers are not actually in depth. I'm just kind of showing you the process of the system.
Don't you usually pad in the oops factor?
Pad in a lot of that oops factor. Yeah, you're right. Let's just say $20,000. Purchase price, it's currently worth 170. I'm going to purchase it. Let's say it's for, hot market, going to give them 180. Hold time, let's just say 6 months. So purchase and repair costs, $200,000. Our monthly holding costs, 416. Of course, we would tweak these however you're going to acquire it. So this is where you can start to put in, are you getting a hard money loan? Do you have a private lender? Do you already have the funds? Are you taking over a mortgage? You can start to build in all of these expenses. For time for today, you know.
Because there's a money cost to borrowing money.
Oh, absolutely.
But if you raise the capital through, like, say, self-directed IRAs, then we don't have the money cost.
So we got our title insurance, we got our escrow attorney fees, and then any miscellaneous buying costs. So let's just say that let's say we have the funds in-house that we've raised through self-directed IRAs. And then look, total selling transactional costs. So on this net profit, if we were to just do a fix and flip, potentially $13,000. Return on investment is 6%. But like I said, what if we took this property over subject to and it cost us $20,000 to get into it? But then of course we need the rehab, and that's another $20,000. So we're in this thing $40,000.
Well, you could totally redo. You selected a fix and flip as part of this analysis, but you could have redone this whole analysis as a rental.
Right. Yeah. So there's many different ways to analyze these properties. We could analyze it as a rental. When there's not a lot of equity, then you might want to be looking at a rental. And of course, you don't just have to rent. There's a whole lot of other strategies we'll cover in future days on how to actually acquire these. But that's an easy way to analyze it and evaluate it. And then you can print this off and you can use this to show potential investors, money lenders, your partners, and say, look, this is the property we're looking at. Does this fit the criteria of what we want to do? But I use this system every single day to analyze and evaluate deals. There's all sorts of other things like this. If you guys got a text message tonight, it came from this system. If you got a text that said, hey, we're going to be going live in 10 minutes, hop on this Zoom link, that actually came from here. You know, you can put a sign that says, text this number to this, and they will get a text with your whole brochure of your house that you're trying to sell. And so much more. Like we said, we don't really have a lot of time to go into all the ins and outs.
Daryl asked, is Renatus available to us?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Now, so the Renatus iOS system is only available to Renatus students. But what we're talking about is we love real estate so much that we've been, let me stop sharing here, and I want to transfer over a little bit because I want to tell you a little bit about, you know, masterminds moving forward. I did a lot of in-depth training today. Future masterminds, only maybe about part of this will be actually live on YouTube. Some of the more ins and outs and nitty-gritties are going to be in a private mastermind. Haven't quite figured that out yet. Like I said, last week was the first one. We're really just kind of building the wings while we take this plane off. So how does this all look moving forward? But this is designed to assist with the Renatus education moving forward. And what I want to show you guys is, if you're interested in Renatus education and interested in real estate investing, what does that actually look like? Because I know that's how I met Joseph. We met through this, these online classes. Actually, that's really how we came into contact with each other. I'm just going to take a couple more minutes here and show you. Can you guys see my screen? You guys can't see my screen, can you? I should probably share my screen with you. Let's share this screen. All right. So some of you may be thinking like, hey, why don't more people do this stuff? Well, what I ran into the problem is, you know, there's sites out there, there's different YouTube videos. I mean, you guys are watching us on YouTube, and there's a million other YouTube videos on how to do these different strategies. But what I came into the problem is, there's actually too much information out there. And there's some different sites that talk about, you know, some very large things that you can stuff into, pockets, stuff like that. So what I found was that there's always somebody that has one point of view and somebody that has another point of view. And I was getting conflicting answers all across the board. Okay, this person said to do this person said to do that. And I got that too in business credit too. This person said these report, but this person's saying they don't report. What I had to do is find one pathway that I could stick with. So from my perspective, why people don't do this is they don't even know about it. Many banks discourage it, obviously. Mainstream media doesn't even understand it. Financial advisors have never heard of it. Dave Ramsey sure doesn't teach about it. Susie Orman didn't write about it. Mom and dad didn't even know about it. And your broke cousin said not to. They fear it. There's a lot of fear right now. Don't fear the unknown. Embrace fear, because what fear is something new, an opportunity to learn. And wealth, in the sense of creating wealth through business ownership, real estate investing, whatever your dreams or your passions are, education is not learning of facts, but it's a training of your mind to think. Now, I mean, many of us could argue that Albert Einstein was one of the, smartest men that ever lived. But then I've also heard that you're like, hey, he already took somebody else's idea and just made it work. I'm like, well, either way, he's getting the credit for it. See, we encourage actually copying. If you, like in school, are you frowned upon for copying off of your peers?
Yes.
But I learned how to really write up contracts for my attorney friends and Joseph. We learn these things from each other. And in the real world of business ownership and real estate investing, we encourage you to copy off of others. It's not frowned upon. Copy what the successful are doing. And so what we're talking about is the Essentials course. This is the foundational course of what we went through in Renatus to find out a lot of this. There's the real estate foundations, self-directed IRAs, how to raise capital through retirement funds, real estate red flags, what to watch out for, tax and legal, 2 days of legal courses on everything you need to know.
I love that one too.
It's amazing. The guy's a comedian. Mark Kohler, look him up. Mark Kohler's a genius. Creative acquisitions. This is just one. Just tipping the iceberg of one strategy in this creative acquisitions course. There's 7 different ways of acquiring properties without using your own money or credit in his class, Chris Albans. He also talks about deal of the decade. Now, who's actually teaching that class? Chris Albin. He basically was a high school teacher and amassed hundreds and hundreds of rental properties, almost bought up half of a little town in Danville, Illinois, on a high school teacher's salary.
Oh, that's easy to do.
And so, I mean, you can definitely learn from that. Negotiations, the CEO of Renatus, he teaches how to negotiate a deal, credit management, the ins and outs of credit, personal credit.
I was taking that class today.
There you go. Velocity banking. We, every single week we have the credit banking, which is, basically the same strategy, mastermind that we do every single week. But if you've been engaged in, the velocity channel, you've been engaged in credit banking, we learned everything, all those little nuances. Oh, you've been wondering how to actually implement into your exact situation and how do I move this line and this and that? That's in this class. That's how we have really mastered this skill. And so this comes with these 10 different classes, over 60 hours of education, weekly group coaching webinars, and that's not even including what we do. Everything we do is just a bonus. I mean, but there's actual instructor that has a Tuesday night mastermind as well that you can hop on. And the price for that, to gain access to all that, and for the lifetime of Renatus, I purchased this education over 4 years ago. And I still get all the updates and everything and have access to the coaching and everything. And it was that one-time price, and I never had to pay again. That's what was really phenomenal. Now, of course, there's so much about real estate you can learn. There's lease options, there's short sales, there's notes, there's deeds, there's liens, there's flips, there's multifamily, there's commercial property, there's bonus tracks that actually includes a course on business credit. It's actually our business partner in business credit. All of this, who you're actually learning from are true industry professionals, masters of their skill. Like that's what they do on their day-to-day basis. Have you ever heard of Garrett Gunderson? He owns a company called Wealth Factory. He teaches you about the financial aspect of keeping the wealth, infinity banking, life insurance policies, all of these amazing, amazing strategies. These are truly successful people in their profession. And you can go spend the time to look them all up. You can look at all the instructors and their bios at myrenatus.com. Go check it out. So another, 46 plus full day courses. Like I said, these are not just little YouTube videos. These have pre-tests, post-tests, 6-7 hours of content of ins and outs, case studies. We'll cover up a lot every single week. But man, if you're just like, hey, I can't wait every single week for Ray and Joey to go over some new little tidbit on the strategy, I got to dive into this deeper. We got the new profits aspect of it, which is all about driving sales for your business, automation, setting up systems, setting up everything you need to flourish. And there's students everywhere in the country. And so there's probably somebody that you already know near you that is already plugged into this education. You can, of course, take it online or go to the Renatus campus that is actually in Centerville, Utah. They own that building. You know, they're in the Inc. 5000. They're running 6-7 figures in the black. You know, it's not going away anytime soon, that's for sure. And they've just voted for the 3rd year straight best of state for education in Utah. Pretty cool, huh? So yes. We talked about the Essentials course. That's $2,497, and that's really the foundational, and that's really what we're even just talking about to you. You know, but there's other things that Renatus offers. There's their profits. There's the profits combo, which is the Essentials and the profits courses. There's the Extreme Plus, and then there's what's called the Epics, and that's literally everything Renatus has to offer for the entire lifetime. For the entire lifetime of the company. Now, full disclosure, I do own the Epics combo. Like, you know, it's one of those things. It's, you know, are results typical? Hey, I took the education and I went out and implemented it. And wow, I had some results. Do they guarantee your results? Absolutely not. Because there's a lot of folks that take it and you have to actually do something with it. You actually have to take your courses to understand.
Can I share something real quick? I actually just started at the Essentials.
You did, yeah.
And I took all of those and it blew me away. And then I got all the way up to the Epics.
Right, because if you guys remember when I started this and I was like, I was actually losing my house. So how on earth did I even afford any of this? Well, the great thing is what we talk about every single week with Joseph is how to find the money. And if you are in a situation where you're like, hey, I absolutely have no money, but I want to do it, let's figure it out. Because Renatus offers in-house billing for you, and those are the different things. So if you have $399 and you can afford $116 a month for 18 months, boom, you're in. At least get going at some point. That's all we care about. But let's say that you've been learning about credit banking and you have, you know, your Velocity account in place, and you're like, well, I could put this on this line of credit, this credit card, or something like that. Boom, you get a discount if you bring your financing to the table. You can do this with life insurance policies. You can do this with 401ks. You can do this with IRAs. You can do it. I mean, there's a million different ways we can find the money for you. It's just if you want to actually do it.
You know, one of the things we've mapped this out before, using your own lines of credit with a credit banking strategy ends up costing you something like $2, less than $2 a day.
$2 a day
to change your life.
I mean, that's a cup of coffee. Actually, Starbucks is like what, $5-6 for a coffee.
It's cheaper to go see a movie.
Now, you East Coast folks, you don't know about Dutch Bros, but that's what I like over here, Dutch Bros. So your greatest return on investment is an investment in the knowledge that pays you the best interest. Now, you do not have any type of degree that comes from Renatus.
No degree, no certification.
No certification.
No diploma on the wall.
No. You're just getting straight knowledge. And that was, yeah, no diploma on the wall. But you might end up with a business license. You might end up with a trust that's left for generational wealth to your family. You may end up with, just a whole lot of dead presidents on little pieces of paper. There's a lot of possibilities, but there is no guarantees in life. There's no guarantees in real estate. And are my results typical? No, my results are different from Joseph. We started on different paths, but together we're creating similar results, and that's what's powerful. Because, I mean, if some of you don't even know, you're finding us for the first time, just since we formulated a partnership together a little over 2 years ago. Now, we worked a little bit together before that, for some time to really get us feel it out. But these are just the fix and flips, wholesales. These are rental properties that we've acquired in just a little over 2 years. Yeah, so it's pretty powerful stuff.
Using none of our own money or credit.
Yeah, and that house on the screen right there, that is a subject to property as well, a subject to rental. And it only costs $30,000 to get into that $260,000 house. Imagine that. Whew. And, talk about why. This is a little bit about my why. We talk a lot about, I don't really talk too much about really why I do the things that I do. I do it for my family. That's what's really powerful is building this legacy. There's my wife and there's my 2 kids. But if you guys look there on the left-hand side of the screen, that is actually down in Mexico. And so what we do is I wanted to do it for a really, really long time, and I was never financially able to do it. But then there's this ministry that my church is part of, and it's called Amore, where they build houses for people in poverty all around the world. And I figured if I get to a point where I have this success, I'm going to start building and giving back, because that's really what my goal is. I want to create, you know, this billion-dollar real estate empire so I can basically start giving it all away. That's what I really want to do, and see the change that I want to see in the world. And so that was, you know, we've been going down for, you know, the last 2 years solid, funding the projects, doing the projects, getting a group of folks together. We go down there, we knock out 3 houses in a, you know, in a long weekend. And these are basically nice sheds for what we would see, you know, in America. You know, there's no plumbing. It's got a window and it's got a door. And sometimes there's 6 to 10 family members living in these houses. But as opposed to literally the cardboard boxes that they were living in, this is a godsend. So you can actually start to change these lives. And I've gone back and I see the families, and they remember you for years and years to come. So I encourage you, if you want to see, you know, whatever maybe there's an organization that you want to be part of and take place in, figure out a way to do it, because that's what life is really about, is that change. And in that generational change, we're bringing our kids along with us. They're learning about these strategies. They don't even think like any. The stuff that my 7-year-old daughter says to other children, they just look at her weird. Because she'll talk about like her little business. She has this little gumball machine that we got because I used to actually do some yard sailing and buy up stuff. And so when I used to yard sale, I would take her along with me as a negotiating tool when she was like 2 years old. You know, this is like, she's 1 year old, and I would literally get the best deals because I'm carrying this baby and trying to negotiate on an exercise equipment or something like that and use it to my advantage to negotiate the best deal.
My kids are her #1 clients. They buy all that.
Yeah, she makes the most money from Joseph. But, you know, it's here at the office, but it's teaching her a principle of, she bought it with her own money, and then when we cracked it open from this garage sale that we bought it from, there was already like an extra $2 in there. It was already making money. I lent her the money to actually buy the candy, so she got the candy, and now she, you know, she'll come in like once a month and check to see, you know, she made a couple bucks here and there. You know, maybe she makes like $7, $8, but for a 7-year-old, making a consistent $7, $8 a month by just having something that she doesn't even see and she shows up once to actually look at, boom. But then, of course, I'll bring her to the office and have her wipe some tables, and then I can pay her for that. That's deep. Now, a later day, we'll talk about paying your children.
Well, you pay her by what it costs for her clothes and her, you know, feeding her, travel expenses.
Her gymnastics is a tax deduction. I am not paying for gymnastics out of taxable income. So she is going to come here and she's going to clean up the home office. She's going to shred some paper. She's going to take out some trash. And I'm going to pay her. And then she's going to pay for gymnastics. That's how it's going to work.
Wonderful.
But of course, to do that, there's a whole proper way of doing that. You'll learn it in the Essentials with Mark Kohler. That's all that, I mean, I went over our time by 6 minutes today, but I want to thank you guys for being here. Thank you from myself. I want to thank you from Mr. Smith. If you want to contact us, so let's sit down. If you're interested in finding more about the Renatus education, let's talk about it. I can, you know, let's just throw around some ideas. If you know us, you know that we like to talk to you before.
What's happening on Saturday?
Oh, Saturday. That's a great question. We have a follow-up that's taking place on Saturday where you can find out about how to find the money for this education, get your questions answered for this education. And we will put that link in the description because I think we have a text number.
I don't know.
We do.
We have it, but it's live. And
oh, it's on here. Perfect. In our follow-up, additional ways to find the money, how to start, how to manage, grow successful business, how to generate income. And look at that. I was prepared for once. I just didn't know I was.
I'm amazed.
Join us on the follow-up this Saturday, 12 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. You can text REI, Real Estate Investor or Investments. So just the letters REI to 602-497-2257, and then you'll get the custom Zoom link for that follow-up.
You're going to be educated and entertained, but most of all, encouraged to move forward in the passions of your dream.
Yeah, that's good stuff. Other than that, we look forward to working with you folks, and we will see you next time. Good night, and God bless.
Good night.